Hello, I'm Aleksandra Kuczyńska-Zonik and you're watching TVP World Talks, where every word matters. Sanctions have for a long time been the primary weapon of the West against Russian military adventurism and hybrid warfare, forcing Moscow to try and adapt to a new, adverse legal environment. Among the most infamous methods used by the Kremlin is the so-called shadow fleet, a vast array of tankers deployed to carry sanctioned crude oil and gas. But apart from the obvious issue of running rings around legal restrictions, the often obsolete, even downright ancient vessels turned out to present an imminent danger to the environment, as one of them sank spectacularly in the Black Sea. With 12 European nations now reaching a deal to clamp down on Moscow's shadow fleet, we examine the details of the story with our guest today, Aleksandra Kuczyńska-Zonik, political scientist from the Institute of Central Europe. Hello and welcome to TVP World.
Good morning, everyone.
So, by way of a quick introduction, for those who are not aware of the problem, what is the shadow fleet and what is the scale of the issue today?
Maybe I would like to start from the fact that according to the sixth package of sanctions, the European Union countries, together with their allies, introduced the introduce the sanction on transportation and import and export of crude oil from Russia by sea, and it meant that none of the European Union countries cannot import the crude oil. But it turned out that Russia introduced and adopted new methods and new tactics of transportation of those goods. And now we can observe transportation of those goods by sea, by Baltic Sea. And Russia uses so-called dark fleet or shadow fleet, which means they are ships quite old, probably 15 to 20 years old fleet. They operate against the sanctions without no insurance, validated insurance. Those ships also switch off identification system, which means that the probability of any kind of accidents is quite high. Moreover, those ships haven't got any kind of flag, so once more it is difficult to maintain their ownership, and moreover, they work against the law of the sea, which means that they avoid any kind of standard and best practices operating in the Baltic Sea. Finally, we can also say that shadow fleet of Russia's shadow fleet, introduce several risks and threats for Baltic Sea countries, not only political threats operating against the sanctions, but also economic, financial, or environmental ones. For example, those old ships are more vulnerable to fires, to damage of the engines, or oil leaks, which create several environmental and ecological threats for those countries.
Yes, I mean, that's a major point that was raised recently after one of these ships literally broke into two in the Black Sea. So they are often shipwrecks in the making, right? But do you think they may also present an additional threat? Let's say there is a hybrid conflict between Russia and NATO at some point, even perhaps below the threshold of Article 5. Do you think there is a risk that such ships could be used to carry military equipment or serve, for example, as a platform for naval drones, which could be deployed by Russia to attack infrastructure? Are we prepared for threats of this kind? And doesn't this actually make it all the more necessary to tackle the issue as soon as we can?
I would say that we cannot exclude any kind of hybrid threats, even including shadow fleet. Currently, shadow fleet is usually used by Russia to transport illegally oil, crude oil and gas, as it was mentioned, but we cannot exclude that one day Russia can also adopt new strategies and also try transport military equipment through those ships. Even though we have to bear in mind that other ships, for example, scientific ones, those which operate in the Baltic Sea for so-called scientific purposes, they also operate on the Baltic Sea, and we also know that apart from this, let's say, legal activity, people on those ships also collect information about strategic infrastructure, about cables, about any kind of land infrastructure near the Baltic Sea. So once more, Russia's strategies, Russia tactics are very, very different and multiple. So we have to be aware of new different threats, even including shadow fleets.
Do you think that the recent agreement between 12 European nations, including the Baltic states, including all the countries, Scandinavia, also Poland, Germany, Britain and the Netherlands, can actually help ensure that the Baltic really does remain what we have come to refer to recently as a NATO lake? Because it seems that even though militarily it is literally surrounded by NATO countries, Russia still actually has some scope for operating beyond the boundaries set by, as you've mentioned, the legal framework and so on, exploiting the possibilities that the Shadow Fleet offers. So do you think that measures such as introducing sanctions on, I think, 50-something ships will be enough to do that? Because this is what was announced, right? 50-something ships were sanctioned right now.
Yes, I mean, indeed, after Finland and Sweden joined NATO, it was said that Baltic Sea became NATO lake. So indeed, it was a very good fact because we increase our security. But we have to bear in mind that that new risks appeared. So even though we have to remember that we have do more and more, and indeed the meeting in Tallinn yesterday and today where 12 countries met together and decided to increase their cooperation in the Baltic Sea as a good step. Especially when we bear in mind that the Joint Expeditionary Force is a format under the activity of NATO, may create or increase stability in the Baltic Sea and ensure that any kind of Russia's activity is monitored. So
one quick question: what about signal jamming? Because we only have a minute left. Do you think that NATO is likely to take action with regards to this? Because it poses a threat not just to our economic interests but also to our security.
Exactly. I would say that it is very, very good sign for our community, Baltic Sea community, that we are aware of those threats, and NATO, especially those countries which are mentioned here, they cooperate together, even though the number of those fleets under the JEF are not very high. But once more, it is to monitor and to ensure that we are aware of Russia's aggressive activity. Those ships, NATO ships, patrol and monitor any kind of activity in the Baltic Sea and can also very quickly respond to any kind of Russia's activity. So even if we think about NATO's bureaucracy, maybe too much bureaucracy, JEF format can be some kind of complementary format to NATO. And I would say that it is very, very good for us to have such format and to have such force. But on the other hand, we also have to remember that Russia can also very quickly adopt to new situation and use different tactics and different ships to be more aggressive.
Aleksandra Kuczyńska-Zonik was our guest today here on TVP World. Thank you very much for joining us and for sharing your insight. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Damian Szerwiński, you're watching TVP World. Please do stay with us for more latest news and updates.